Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of Musically Mindful, the show where I sit down with your favorite musicians, artists, and even some of your friends to discuss mental health within the music space. We're going to take a bit of a break from that this week because we're doing another solo episode, but I kind of want to break away a little bit from exclusively the mental health stuff, and I want to talk about physical health. For anybody who does know me, is aware that I have gone through a pretty intense health overhaul over the past 5 or 6 years. And for those who don't, we're going to get into it. But in a recent episode I did with Kun Shah, the creator of Live for Live Music, we really talked about how physical health, mental health, spiritual health, it's all health. And I decided that this would be a good week considering that schedules didn't line up, that I could just talk about my own journey with physical health and my thoughts on it and its importance in relation to our mental health. And music is tied into my journey. So I figured I can just kind of give you guys a bit more insight into me and open up that door to conversation. We've talked about physical health throughout the show a little bit. Scott Hashey from Magic Beans and I talked about working out. Kunj and I did as well. And Brownie and I did as well. So I figured why not lean into that a little bit and take the opportunity to use this podcast that I've created to talk a little bit about it and share my own story. So I can go back to kind of where everything started, in my family lineage with obesity and overweight. My parents were both overweight. My sister at a point in her life was overweight. My uncles were overweight. And I myself was immensely overweight at a very young age. I to throw a few numbers out, my dad at his top weight was 507 pounds. My mom and sister, respectfully, I both don't know and wouldn't do that to them because I love them. My top weight was about 320 pounds. And I was already 300 pounds by the time I graduated high school. But to reverse and go back a little further and explain my relationship with food and physical health. Growing up, I played sports. I played basketball, I played baseball, I played soccer and fucking hated it and quit really fast. But I was always an active kid. I rode BMX. I pretended to skateboard for a little while, but I was always an active kid. And for anybody who knows or doesn't know, my upbringing was a little unique in terms of the fact that my dad was not majorly prevalent in my life due to his own health battles. From the time I was about 6 or 7 to the time that I was about 12 or 13, it was a consistent cycle of surgeries and then having to go into rehab for healing, and then something would happen and he would be in another facility, and all of that was predicated off of the fact that my dad was obese. It was, like I said, he was 507 pounds at like 5'10", maybe 5'9". I don't really remember his height, but not a huge man. Well, height wise, he was a huge man in circumference and and in weight. And that led to a series of health problems for him for nearly a decade. It started, I remember the first one was a reconstructive surgery on his foot and ankle because he was walking around with so much pressure and so much weight, and he had, I think it was like 23 microfractures in his foot and ankle that he didn't even know about. So I remember going into a hospital and there was this fucking like massive cage around his foot and ankle. And At that point, it was just like, oh, it's an ankle foot surgery, whatever. And then, diabetes happened. And then eventually my dad lost his leg and became an amputee, and his kidneys shut down. So he became a dialysis patient. He had a defibrillator, a permanent port, a permanent stint for easy access because of how often he was in the hospital or um, at the doctor or what have you. And yeah, eventually he had a gastric bypass surgery and shriveled down to I think like 170 pounds or like and not the right way. And was not the man that it's an interesting story to tell. I knew him as a little kid and he was out of my life for a lot of those majorly transformative years, and then he came back and I started to get to know him, but within that, his relationship with food and his poor relationship with food was something that I adopted over time. My family, very much so, food was a central theme for multiple reasons. Number one, we were all overweight, but also that was because my family owned a pizzeria in Brooklyn my whole life growing up. My grandpa was a prisoner of war for the Italian army in World War II, got captured here at Fort Hamilton, stayed here after the war, opened a pizzeria in 1962. My dad took it over in the late 80s, early 90s. And then eventually, my sister and I, after my dad's inevitable passing, took it over. But the pizzeria it was how we made a living. My mom didn't work until I, got into high school, really, before he passed away. But my mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad, the pizzeria was our life. And within that too, being my dad is where I'm Italian and my mom is Jewish, but both my food was such a central thing. It was how we celebrated. It was how we all coped. It was how we mourned. It was how we indulged. It was how we spent time together, going to a restaurant for a thing, or Christmas Eve at my house where we would cater, or having barbecues, or whatever the case may be. Food was always a thing. And at a young age, having that, and then getting eventually to the point of working in the pizzeria, I just developed a very, very unhealthy relationship with food, and by proxy, with a very minimal interest in physical activity as I got older, because I was overweight and because I started really heavily, taking drugs and not caring. I remember being in like middle school and I was like, I don't really want to go do sports. Like, I want to go smoke pot and I want to go sniff pills. So I'm good. I would shoot around basketballs with my friends here and there, but like we were more interested in like going on Silk Road and making edibles and buying drugs and selling drugs, and um physical activity fell by the wayside majorly. Um and yeah, I just had a very unhealthy relationship with food. It was a crutch. It was a thing to celebrate. When something good happened, like, where's the food? When something bad happened, where's the food? When you get high as fuck and you're a teenager, where's the food? Like, everything in my life at the time, in those young years, really heavily was related around food. And I talk oftentimes about in my personal life about my eating habits from back in the day. I know I don't look it now, but yeah, I remember I told somebody the other day my typical Wendy's order when I would go, I'd get stoned, I'd do whatever, I would go to Wendy's and I would order two 4 for 4s with a junior bacon cheeseburger and a crispy chicken BLT sandwich. Then I would get a Baconator meal, and then I would get another 10-piece nuggets. And I didn't even like Frosties, but I had the little keychain thing that, like, when you bought it for like 99 cents, you got free Frosties for a year or whatever. So three sandwiches, three orders of fries, almost 20 nuggets, a frosty, and each 4 for $4 comes with a drink. So I'd get like an orange soda and a strawberry lemonade. And that I would like eat all that. And then I like in the parking lot, like in my car. And then I would come home and I'd swipe a box of Wheat Thins out of the cabinet and I'd eat the whole box. Or I'd grab a jar of peanut butter and I would just eat the jar of peanut butter with the sometimes with the Wheat Thins, sometimes with something else. But I like we would go to the convenience store. For anyone that watches this, of friends of mine that grew up in Marlboro, 612 was the only place you could go really buy cigarettes underage that didn't really care. But you could also get like Boar's Head sandwiches and snacks. So we would go and pick up cigarettes and Dutches or whatever. And I would also get the 99-cent Arizona cans. I would get like 5 of them. And I would just drink those like water. I don't think I drank water until I was in my 20s. And I was never into like snacks. I don't have a sweet tooth. I don't really care for cookies or chips and shit like that. Don't get me wrong. I'll eat them if they're available. And now, if you put a 7-layer Italian cookie in my face, even with as health conscious as I am, I'm gonna have it. That said, my vice was food, whole food made with like real milk and cheese and butter. And in the pizzeria too, like I'll paint you a scenario of a day. We would get into Brooklyn around 10, 11 a.m., open up the pizzeria. First thing you do, you walk around all the guys, we take an order, somebody goes to the corner bagel store. So you start the day with a bacon, egg, and cheese on an everything bagel. Then you're working in a kitchen all day. So someone orders an extra, or someone orders, gets an order of chicken tenders, you throw an extra one in the fryer. Someone orders mozzarella sticks, you throw an extra one in the fryer. You're cutting up chicken cutlets, you take a piece. And you're doing that all day. And then you're like, oh, I'm in the mood for a slice. So you go throw a slice in the oven, you cut it in half, you split it with one of the guys in the back. Then you have family lunch or group lunch, which most restaurants do, where you make like a big meal for everybody to eat during lunch. And that could have been Italian hot dogs or a pasta dish or a special kind of pie or pizza, like whatever we made that day, cheesesteaks, whatever. Then you have the back half of the day and you're doing the same thing. You're an extra chicken cutlet here, an extra chicken tender, a handful of French fries, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Go have Martino. You want a slice? Like, cool. Throw a square in the oven, cut it in half, split it. Then you get to the end of the night. You're hungry. So I make dinner. And what I would make for dinner is taking advantage of the fact that I had my own restaurant. I'd make whatever the fuck I wanted. I'd make a personal pie or two. I'd make a crazy sandwich. I'd make whatever I wanted, and also an order of chicken tenders and an order of mozzarella sticks and French fries, and I'd like throw it all in a bag, and that's my dinner. Then you go to the counter, because for anyone who's worked in a pizzeria knows at the end of the night, everybody takes the leftovers. So like, cool, I'm gonna grab two squares, I'm gonna grab a couple barbecue chicken slices, I'll grab some grandma squares, I'll grab a rice ball or two, a chicken roll, a sausage roll, insert whatever the fuck. So you're coming home with a box of pizza and rice balls and rolls every night. On top of that, you have the dinner that you made. On top of that, all the food that you ate all day. Then with my dad, some nights we would stop at Burger King on the way home because he had bad eating habits. So great, I'm going to eat that too. Or we would go to Randazzo's or Rollin' Roaster in Brooklyn and sit down and have like mussels and fried galamad. Or we'd go to Rollin' Roaster and get a roast beef and cheese fries. And that's after the whole day on the way home. Then I would get home, get high as fuck, eat the dinner that I made. And then you wake up in the morning and there's all this food in the fridge. And there was always food in the fridge because you're working every night. And you're bringing home food every night. We had my fridge always, my entire life, up until like my early 20s when we got rid of the business, there was always pizza and rice balls and rolls and just all that kind of stuff was always in the fridge at a moment's notice. Like if you didn't have, you could just go throw 2 slices in the toaster oven, go throw a chicken roll. And like me, I would like heat up a sausage roll and a rice ball in the microwave, then put it in the toaster oven and eat 2 slices of pizza cold while I'm waiting for that to be done. I was just a glutton. And when we would go out, I remember, I think it was like my sister's college graduation. We were in Oswego and we went to a restaurant and I did the breakfast eating challenge because I fucking could. And I was like, my sister's 5 years older than me. So I was like 15, 14, 15, doing like a giant pancake with all the things and the stuff. And I remember I went and did the Grease Trucks challenge at Rutgers. And it was if you could eat 5 fat sandwiches. For anyone who doesn't know what a fat sandwich is, it's basically uh like a chicken parm or a chicken cutlet hero or a cheesesteak or whatever with like mozzarella sticks and chicken tenders and fries. And it's just these big, fat, greasy abominations. And if you could eat 5, you get to make your own and name the sandwich. I ate 4 1/4. The guy from Man vs. Food ate 4 1/2. I was close. But I digress on that side of it. Just that's me painting the picture of how bad my eating habits were and how much I just gorged food constantly. I was always eating. I was always had something to eat and in Arizona and a cigarette. Always. And when you just get into that rhythm, I remember my sister lost weight when she was in college and I was like, I just didn't care. I was like, okay, cool, good for you. My dad got bypass and like he was lost weight and I didn't care. My mom at one point got down to like a 2 or a 0 dress or I don't really fucking remember how women's sizes works, but she was really, really skinny. She lost like 160 pounds or something crazy. And I just never fucking cared. Internally, I was distraught. I was overweight. I felt awful. I felt like I looked terrible. Girls didn't want to look at me the right way. Not only because I was overweight, I was also a drug addict and had anger issues and a lot of other reasons. But at that time in my life, food was a thing and just unhealthy eating and also just no activity. We had a fenced in backyard, so there wasn't a reason to walk the dogs. I stopped riding a bike because I got a car. I just didn't care. I always loved hiking and I loved being outside. And even if I was fat, I made do and I sweat and I huffed and I puffed because nature is a center for me. But truthfully, I just found everything in my life was connected to food and not being active, and it weighs on you. And truthfully, a bad relationship with food is a very difficult thing to overcome. It's a very hard thing to deal with. It's a very hard thing to manage, especially when you're young and it's everything in your life. You celebrate, you eat, it's food's everywhere. It's everything. And when you're growing up in a town where like everyone just does drugs and gets high and like you go to the pizza place or you go to the Wawa or you do this, you do that. You're at somebody's house, you raid their pantry. It's just always that. And eventually, like I said, by the time I graduated high school, I was already 300 pounds. At 17. And nobody ever realized that I was that big for whatever reason. I'll put up a picture here on this side or that side. I don't know. We'll see. Of what I looked like back then. And it's a struggle. Just carrying around that much weight is a struggle, but also, being young and not being like healthy and active but you're a kid, like nothing affects you the same way. You're made of you're like made of rubber. And eventually it began to catch up with me rather, because it really, I was as unhealthy as can be. When I was like 18, 19, 320 pounds. I was smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, Marlboro Reds no less, sometimes Lucky Strike unfiltered, chugging Arizona like water, eating that much, like eating easily 10,000 calories a day of just garbage. And and fats and butter and foods, like just yeah, I was as unhealthy as could be, mentally and physically. And when you're that physically unhealthy, it weighs on you mentally too, because you don't have a physical outlet to get things out. You don't have, you don't feel good about your body image. You don't feel good about yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror. You see, I went to school with kids that were fucking shredded and star soccer players and star athletes and just good genetics and handsome fucking kids. And I always bounced around between friend groups. You know, I have my core friends who to this day, even if we don't talk the way that we used to, we're still, you know, and my, you know, Pizzo and Brian and Char and Capo and those guys were my friends. But then there was older kids that I hung out with when I got like really into drugs, and then there were the cool kids that I would like hang out with on occasion, or the kids that I sold drugs to that were popular that liked me because I had drugs, or you know, I never really had like a solid place to just be myself, so I was always trying to kind of be a chameleon and go through phases. And you know, I remember I had the Affliction, Ed Hardy, giant diamond earring Jordans phase, and I had the, you know, skater phase, and I all the things I could be to avoid being myself. And a lot of that was predicated on my uncomfortability within myself from a physical perspective. I hated looking at myself. I didn't let people take pictures of me like my whole life. My mom, to this day, you know, I would never let my mom take pictures of me. It would be to like dance with her or to take pictures was the most uncomfortable fucking thing in the world. And then that also, you know, leans into the fact I used to have cystic acne, and it was not a good time for me physically, and therefore not for me mentally either. And when my dad inevitably passed away, my dad was on three transplant lists after this near decade of a health struggle where he wasn't crazy prevalent in my life, but also came back in at a weird time. And you know, there was a point where my dad couldn't get up the stairs, so there was a hospital bed in my living room because he had a fake leg and he would just wheel around the house, but he would sleep in the living room. And then eventually he was able to get to the point where he could walk upstairs with the prosthetic and stuff. But um, yeah, some of the things my dad told me, and you know, excuse me if this gets a little graphic and what have you, but I remember there was a time where my dad really, really drilled into me hard and was like, it was him professing how bad he felt about himself and how he let his body be destroyed. He's like, you have any idea how fucking hard it is? Like how I can't just get up and go to the fucking bathroom in the middle of the night. Not everything in my body fucking works like you, and just it was really, really difficult to hear that kind of stuff. And my dad would always tell me, it's like, Mike, if you took care of yourself, you'd be a brick fucking shithouse. You'd be like you'd be an animal. You'd be a monster. Like chicks would be all over you. You'd be a stud. And I was so in the grips of substance abuse and partying and all the things. And then that becomes another aspect of cool. Like now I'm getting to the age where like everybody's starting to hang out. Like everybody's really starting to like get girlfriends and fuck chicks all the time, or however often, and what have you. And you know, we're out, and then you're starting to go to music festivals and you're going to concerts and there's like raves and there's girls in no clothes with like glitter all over their cheeks, and you're just this fucking fat goofy guy that like is the friend, you know, like, oh, I wish guys were like you type. And that was my role for a long time. I did okay in those years. I didn't do great. I can admit that. I was no player. I wasn't a stud, but I did all right when I could, when I needed to, when I wanted to, when I felt comfortable enough to try and didn't hate myself so much. But I just remember like you're going to a festival and like I'm gonna put up another very specific picture here from my first Camp Bisco and you can get an idea. Um, yes, some of those years were really, really tough and you feel bad about yourself and your friend and you're also like struggling. You're like walking around a music festival in blistering heat and you're 300 pounds and you're smoking cigarettes and you're on fucking who knows what and you just, like you can't breathe. And the only thing you're breathing in is cigarette smoke and weed smoke and fucking dabs and like it was times that I don't regret. It was times that I had fun, times that I enjoyed myself. I partied, I had blasts, I all of that. But to really dig deep into it, I struggled very hard with myself through those years, and it's part of the reason why I went so heavily into drugs and music because they were a way for me to escape and run away from myself. If I could be the friend, if I could be the acid guy, if I could be the guy who has an extra cigarette, if I could be all of those things, I don't have to be me, and nobody will pay attention to those things about me because I can serve a purpose. I can give somebody something. I can be that version. Um, but I finally, after a long time of not taking care of myself, I got into an accident. At age 16, for anyone who's ever worked in a restaurant before, if you've seen a walk-in refrigerator, they're these gigantic, big, heavy wooden metal doors, and they typically have like a clasp kind of bar handle. And I was in my pizzeria. I was 16, regular day. I was cutting onions or mushrooms or something on the counter. And the rule of thumb is if you ever go and stand in front of the door in case somebody's inside, you like knock on the door to let them know so that they don't swing the door open. So I go up, bang on the door. Guy inside, I think his name was Carlos at the time. I think that's who it was. He was inside, didn't hear me, and I'm standing in front of it. Long story short, kicks the door open. Door, 300, 400 pound door with a metal steel bar, swings and cracks me in the spine. Drop the knife, drop to the floor. I'm in a ton of pain, but like I'm okay. I'm fucking 16. I'm 300 pounds. I'm a fucking bull. Nothing hurt. I got up. I like got over it. I went and sat down for a minute. Everything was fine. Went back to work. Didn't think anything of it. But it hurt. I was in pain. Little did I know that not addressing that at the time would lead to the preceding 8 years of back pain from both the injury, from not ever stretching, not ever exercising, not ever fucking going for a walk, all the sleeping on floors and driving around in vans and cars following the biscuits and following fish and pigeons and just festivals. So you're sleeping on the ground and you're sleeping in a tent and like, oh, like I can't drive home, so like I'll sleep in my car. Or you go and you crash at somebody's house and there's not enough room and or you're on an air mattress with three other people. Like those 8 years were some of the most fun, ridiculous, insane party years of my life, but I was in a consistent amount of pain always. My mom knew I was in pain. I couldn't shovel snow without like fucking myself up for 3 days. I couldn't like hunch over and do stuff. Like I had a real back problem. And after years of poorly taking care of myself and eating like shit and not and sleeping, it's just all of that. It finally caught up with me when I was about 24. And I woke up one day and I like couldn't, I turned over and I couldn't move. Like from the neck down, I like didn't have a lot of feeling in my body. And it was the scariest thing ever because like you just can't move. Like I can't wiggle my toe. Like I just can't move. And eventually feeling comes back and I go to work and I was delivering pizza in Jersey at the time at a spot. I would go back and forth between working places in Jersey and then also working in my pizzeria, before I got old enough to have to take it over. Or old enough had to because my dad passed away. But I was delivering. I bent down to grab a delivery bag, and I like threw it out to the point that I was like, I like can't move. I gotta go home. I can't move. And I went home and I curled into a ball and I cried because I was in so much pain. Sciatic, the whole like I was having a spasm that didn't stop. Went to the hospital. They were like, yeah, you know, this, that, the other. They sent me to another place. I went and had tests. So basically, what had happened after all that time was I had such a severe herniation, a herniated disc in my lower back, my L4, L5 disc was so poorly herniated that it had shifted my pelvis and rotated it out of place. And because of that, my sciatic nerve was wrapped around a part of my pelvis. So I was basically tilted to the side and pushed forward, just walking around with 300 plus pounds on it for years. And it just finally wore down to the point that I like couldn't move and like genuinely couldn't walk. That led to about 3 months of being actually like bedridden. Like I couldn't walk. To get to the bathroom and back from my bedroom took about an hour to like the strength to roll off the side of the bed, sometimes crawl, wall walk, bait like it was brutal. And it was really, really it was the first time in my life I think I encountered like a real depression because I didn't have the tools to manage it. I was like, why me? Why is this happening? Like, what the fuck? Like, and I could you I had finally understood what my dad meant about about how he couldn't move. And you know, when my dad passed away, I don't think I finished what I was saying before. He was on a transplant list. Sorry that I'm bouncing around a little bit, but bear with me. I don't have anything written. I'm just talking. He was on a multiple transplant list for kidneys because he was on dialysis. And it was Easter, or we found out around Thanksgiving, I think, that he got called for a transplant. And it was either Thanksgiving or Easter. He passed away in April, so I'm guessing that either way, he he went in and had his transplant surgery. And whether I will never know to this day, whether it was that they didn't check, they didn't know, or they didn't care. Two of the vessels in his heart, one was 100% blocked, one was 97% blocked. And they went through with a major kidney transplant. And for 4 days, my dad was fighting for his life on like 5 blood pressure medications, and he had tubes in him and he couldn't breathe. And my dad was a fucking fighter. My dad was ripping the tubes out like unconscious, like it was not good. Um, my dad was a fighter. My dad went through all of that stuff. My dad flatlined on my 16th birthday and came back. My dad more than flatlined more than once and came back every time. And for those 4 days, it was just blood pressure medication and couldn't, and breathing tubes and all the things. And he, on day 5, was down to like 1 blood pressure medication, was starting to breathe on his own. So we were all in great spirits. We're like, he's no more dialysis. Like it's the kidneys are taking, he's adjusting. He'll be here for a little longer. It's all going to be good. It's all going to be good. And I go to bed. I'm a senior in high school. I'm 17. And I get woken up at like 3 or 4 in the morning by my mom, like, hey, Mike, you got to get up. Like, we got to go to the hospital. And I'm like, well, I remember like I wake up and I'm like, I got to go to school. And I was like, no, Mike, like you need to get up. Like we need to go to the hospital now. And mind you, for any kid that has had a parent with health issues, your parents take on a different tone when you know what's going on and when you know what's happening. And um I was prepared for him to die like my whole life, really. as prepared as you are, you never are actually prepared. And I get up and we go to the hospital, and he's already gone by the time we get to the hospital. He had some complications with cardiac arrest from the kidney transplant, and he passed away. And it was like 2 months before I graduated high school. And I just remember how angry that I was, like at him at the time, which I know sounds terrible, but I was like, man, like why'd you do this? Like why? And I'm a fucking angry kid on drugs, like not understanding. And my dad has just died. And mind you, my dad was really only prevalent in those later years. I only really had my dad from 1 to 6 or 7, and then 12, 13 to 17. Those years in the middle, he was in hospitals or rehabs. He'd come home for 2 weeks. He'd leave for 2 weeks. And I'm a kid. My mom is taking care of me. My friends are my family. I'm making mistakes. I'm doing things. I remember, I'll see if I could find another picture that I can put up of a young birthday party that I had. At birthday party, it was my mom buying a cake at a grocery store and us going into the conference room of a hospital rehabilitation center while my dad was there, and we like sang me happy birthday with a little cake, and it, like, just not good. But when he passed away, you'd think that that would really make me get my shit together. And it didn't. I got even worse. I went way heavier into drugs. I got even more overweight. My sister and I had to take over my family pizzeria because it was our business. So my sister and I tried to take it over. I ran away from it for years, and then she took it over and she convinced me to come back to help. And we did it for as long as we could, and then we just realized it wasn't what we wanted. And the pizzeria kind of destroyed my family to an extent. You know, it contributed to a lot of my dad's health issues. It affected my parents' marriage. It affected his relationship with me, with my sister. It affected my sister and I's relationship with each other. It affected everything. So now I now have an even further negative connotation to food and my relationship to it. And those years were really tough for like the personal side. Like, I had accepted quickly that my dad was gone, but then like, okay, great. Now I'm 17. I'm on drugs. I'm overweight. I'm a smoker. I'm miserable. It just was dark times. I got into some really bad shit that I've talked about on other episodes about my drug use and other things. But yeah, when he passed away, it just all kind of snapped into perspective of like, fuck, man, like, you really should take care of yourself. But I was too in the grips of my own problems to do anything about it. And then I got a little bit older, and it's funny, right? You know, about a year before my back finally blew out, when I was 22 or 23, I was like, it's time to lose weight. And I remember, because I stepped on a scale. I'd gone through a ton of physical therapy up to that point, just because I had to, for various things, for being overweight, for getting hurt, for whatever. And I would go, and I remember I was working out like barely. And I went and I stood on a scale, and the scale said 316 pounds. And the only thought in my head was, I'm closer to 507 than I am to 0. 507 being my dad's heaviest weight. And it scared the absolute shit out of me. It was the realization of like, that's where I'm headed. And I have to do something now. And I tried. Didn't really succeed that well. Lost a couple pounds, put them back on. And then the following year, I had that back injury. 3 months of being immobile. an epidural shot in my back just to be able to make it in the car ride to the physical therapy center. 8 months of physical therapy, intense physical therapy, 3 days a week, to be able to move, to be able to walk, to be able to drive, to be able to function as a fucking human being. So I lost like almost a year of my life in my early 20s because of my inaction and my poor not taking any care of myself. I couldn't go see music. I wouldn't let those 3 months, I wouldn't let my friends come and visit me. I just sat in a hole in my room, dark, depressed, miserable, angry at the fucking world. And I finally, I made it through the physical therapy and I got to the end of it. And I was able to kind of get back into life a little bit. And when I did that, I will never forget, I went to See Here Now in Asbury Park. The first show back that I was able to actually see, and I talked about this on the episode with him, the Disco Biscuits New Year's Eve. This was in 2018, the summer of 2018 when this happened. It was really, really tough. And the Disco Biscuits New Year's Eve that year in Philly, they were doing the anniversary of the Hot Air Balloon show, or the Hot Air Balloon rock opera. And I just texted Brownie just to say, or I don't know if I had his number at the time. I Facebook messaged him probably or something. And I was just like, hey man, I really hope that you guys crush it. Congratulations on the anniversary. Just literally just sending a well wish, nothing else. And he got back to me and he was like, hey man, like I know what's going on. If you're like physically able to make it to the show, like I want to put you on my guest list. Like I would love to have you there if you can make it. Like here's my manager. Just tell him that I texted you this, that, the other. And I was like, you know what? Like I think I could probably make it. And I went, and it was the first time that I had seen music in months. And it was the first time that I went out with my friends. And it was a cool, special thing to be a part of as a Biscuits fan at the time, especially. And then I remember like a month later or a couple weeks later, Pigeons was playing at the Capitol Theater for the first time. And Dave DiCianni, now a good friend at the time, I was a big Pigeons fan. We knew each other. And I messaged him the same thing. I was like, hey man, congrats on the Cap run. Like it's going to be so cool, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, dude, just FYI, like you're on our guest list all 3 nights. If you can make it to any show, like we just come. And I did. They played at the Paramount in Asbury Park, and then they played at the Cap. And I went and I saw Pigeons at the Cap. And I'm pretty sure, where's this fucking poster right here, is that show. And a lot of the reason that I have posters around my house, the certain ones that I do, is because there's a core memory attached. The one next to it is Billy String's Fillmore run from 2022 when I met Billy for the first time. The one next to that is Dead and Company out here from Folsom Field in 2017. And it was one of the coolest weekends I've ever had. And I flew out here, stayed with friends for a week, had an absolute blast. The one next to that is The Great Divide, which is Dogs Festival. Like they all have a core memory. But I went to See Here Now a couple months later. I'm still, I made it to Dome Fest. I made it to whatever. I get to See Here Now. Still 300 pounds. Still, I'm able to move. I'm functioning, but I'm still overweight and I'm still sad and I'm still not healthy. And I see my friend Ben Carrey, the bass player from Pigeons playing ping pong, who had become one of my closest friends at that time. And I saw him for the first time in months. And he had just began dating his now wife and mother of his child. And he lost 60 pounds and he was radiating and bright and happy and healthy and just so different and so good. And there are things that I have to take to my grave with Ben. He is a very pivotal man in my life. He is a person that I will always appreciate and love and have nothing but love for. And he was a friend during that time. He was a confidant. He inspired me to get back into and push forward with writing as a poet. And he would listen to me when I was going through something with a situationship at the time. He was my ear. He was my person to lean on. He was one of, if not my best friends. And I saw him like that. And that was the moment. I got home from that festival and I said, I am fucking sick and tired of being sick and tired. If he can do that, I can fucking do that. And at that time, I was a big wrestling fan, professional wrestling fan. There's a wonderful man who I credit to changing my life, named Diamond Dallas Page. Former WCW World Heavyweight Champion, former WWE wrestler, and he's a fellow New Jersey, grew up in New Jersey. He has a program called DDPY, formerly Diamond Dallas Page Yoga, where he had a back injury that they told him he would never wrestle again. And he found yoga and it changed his life. And he created this plan specifically for people with injuries, for people that are overweight, for people that need to take their lives back. And I bought the DVDs. It was still to this day probably the best $60 or $70 purchase I've ever made in my life. And that next day, I changed my life. I started doing DDPY from level 1, sitting in a chair, using a chair to balance, getting strength back. At the same time, I cut carbs, dairy, sugar out of my diet, cut all the way down my calories. I began intermittent fasting. I began drinking water like religiously and not kind of stopped drinking soda and other things. And over the next 8 or 9 months, through all of this effort, I lost 120 pounds. I went, at the time that I started, I was just about 300. I got down to 186 pounds. Respectfully, here's a picture of me looking rather emaciated, like the machinist, but giving you context. I got skinny. But I was so healthy. I felt so good. All that I ate was like fruit, chicken, and salad. It was like all that I ate, and I barely ate. I was so skinny. I was fucking freezing all the time. But I took my life back. I wasn't in pain anymore. The DDPY, it straightened and lengthened my spine. It made me able to run. It made me able to go back to the gym. It made me able to function and be healthy and feel good, and gave me flexibility and gave me confidence and all of these things. And I am immeasurably and indefinitely indebted to Diamond Dallas Page and the DDPY program, because it truthfully, I was able to, in his words, I was able to own my life. And I took my life back. And that started a snowball of complete transformation. That was the inception of the person that I am now. My career got better. My relationships got better. I started getting attention from women and girls. I was able to get to all the shows and the things that I wanted to again. I was able to go hiking. I was able to go climbing. I was able to start lifting weights and work my way back up from 186 pounds, skinny with no muscle, with my collarbone fucking popping out, to putting on a good amount of muscle over the past few years and really building my physique into what it is now. But even deeper, that health transformation led to me getting sober after some more trial and tribulation. You know, health overhaul came first, sobriety came later. But it just sent me on a path to find myself. It sent me on a path in believing that I could do the things that I never thought that I could. I never thought I'd be able to like have abs. I never thought that I would be able to run a 5K. I never thought I'd be able to run an under 7 minute mile. I never thought I'd be able to like lift heavy weight. I never thought I'd be able to squat ever again with my back. I never thought I'd be able to have like a healthy relationship. I never thought I'd be able to get over my drug use. I never thought I'd be able to come to terms with mistakes I'd made. It changed my entire life. And inevitably, leading through that sobriety also led me into this path of mental health and being an advocate for it and trying to work within the space to do things to better myself and better the people around me and give people tools that they can use and create a platform that we can openly drive the discussion forward. And it all started at a moment's notice of realizing I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, realizing I had spent so many years eating myself to death or to near death. I had high triglycerides. I was on medication for acid reflux. I lost the weight. Those all went away. I was still in pain every day. I lost the weight. I found yoga. The pain went away. I was lonely and didn't get a lot of attention from girls. When I got in shape, I got a lot of attention. And not to like be braggy or like, cause who fucking cares? But when you're an overweight drug addict your whole life, and then you like randomly, magically just, you know, in the midst of COVID, people don't see you for months. I will never forget going that time. It was August 18th, 2019 was day one. I lost all that weight by the time it was COVID. But it's the winter. People don't see you that often and then see you even less. So I'm going to drive-in shows and people have no idea it's me. I remember Pigeons did this WXP or KXP, like the Philly radio station, and they did like a free show during the day. And I went, and my friends walk right past me, have no idea that it's me. My mom, at one point, I just remember there was a picture that came up that she looked at the picture and she didn't even know. I was like, Mom, that's me. My mom didn't recognize. I'm like, you fucking birthed me. You don't even recognize me. And it's different when you see yourself every day because you see the gradual change. You don't see like, cool, you were 300 pounds. I haven't seen you in 6 months because I live across the country. Now you're 230 pounds. And then I don't see you until later in the summer and you're 185 pounds. And then I don't see you and now you're like 200 pounds and you have muscle. Like it was a really crazy time. And admittedly, I overcorrected in a lot of ways. Like I haven't eaten dairy in 6 years. I don't do intermittent fasting as much anymore, but I got so into the radical, you know, different types of diets and different, not like keto and this and that, but like I would cut things out. I would take them back. I would try implementing different things. I would bulk. I would cut. I would try to lift weights. I've done 5-day, you know, 5-day water fasts. Currently I'm at the end of 90 days. And at the time of recording this, tomorrow I have my a doctor's appointment to get my blood work back from doing 90 days of the carnivore diet, in which I feel better than I've ever felt in my entire life, physically, mentally, my physique, emotionally. I feel like I am the most complete version of myself that I have been yet, and will continue to aim to be so, but I'll never be complete because we're an endless work in progress. So always remember that. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be complete. You just are you, and you're always going to get better, and you can always get better no matter how good you get. But physical health, mental health, while they're one and the same, my transformation of physical health is the thing that actually brought me to be able to explore my mental health. And I cannot advocate more to take care of your body, because it's a way that you can take care of your mind. It feels good to feel good. And I look at the trajectory of my life over the past 6 years. When I started to turn my health around, my mental health got better. My career got better. Like I said, my relationships got better. My ability to do things got better. My passions got stronger. I understood myself more. I understood people more. I gained more patience. I gained more sense of it, even more sense of adventure, wanting to really take the time to dig in deep and go through a version, everything in my life. I really do credit majorly to how well I now aim to take care of myself physically. Anybody who knows me knows that I am regimented. Every day I do yoga, I do breath work, I cold plunge, I sauna, I lift weights 6 days a week, I trail run, I climb, I hike, I I thirst for physical activity. I love to be outside. I love to move my body. I love to challenge myself with bulking and cutting and different calorie restrictions and different workout plans and different, getting more into calisthenics, getting more into powerlifting type lifts, changing it up. And here we are now, and I'm at a beautiful place of I have gotten to a point in my routine that I am sound in my body. I have body dysmorphia like a motherfucker. And that's something that I can weigh in on, because when you go from being fat your whole life and you're 320 pounds, and there were times where I remember I asked a girl out in middle school, and I got made fun of because she was a popular girl and she told all of the kids. And I in my sixth or seventh grade yearbook, people wrote I hope she calls you I know, we know you love her. People mocked me for asking out a girl because they thought it was ridiculous since I was fat and overweight. I remember being at a party in high school, and there was we were at a friend's house, and there were people climbing through the windows and shit. And I to just be nice, I pushed this girl back inside and shut the window. And she came back outside and berated me for being fat and ugly, and really I brushed it off, but I went home and it really hurt my fucking feelings. Um I had girls laugh at me. I had guys laugh at me. I remember when I was in middle school, there was this kid, Nick, that told me that I had the wrist version of Kangles, which very funny. Very, very funny, but very painful at the same time. Um, and then there was another kid who I remember when we were kids, you have veins in your hands and your arms. When you're super fat, you don't have fucking veins showing anywhere. And he made fun of the fact that I didn't have veins in my forearm, and that really hurt. There were so many of those times through my life. I had a short phase where I wore a shirt in the pool. Um Yeah, I had a lot of really difficult times being an overweight kid. Um, but it made me so much stronger now. Um, but in terms of body dysmorphia, truthfully, like I ride the wave so hard, or I ride the line so hard between like loving myself wholeheartedly and body positivity and all those things as much as I do. Like I look in the mirror and I still see the 320 pound guy. And I don't think that I look good. And I don't understand why people are attracted to me. And I don't understand why people compliment me or think that I look good. Um, it's just, it's something that I deal with and I struggle with very, very much. No matter how, they say, once you start picking up a weight, you'll never look as good as you ever think that you can. And once the harder you work out, the shittier you think you look. And it's a struggle and it's a challenge. And I commend people that are on the same path and people that lose weight or people that are really skinny. It's body image is tough. And in today's day and age, it's hard. There's supermodels and there's dudes with fucking abs everywhere. And just all the if gym YouTube influencers and like all this shit. And there's some really great ones like Jesse James West, that's like a natural bodybuilder that like does these studies on like the most overweight cities and like really talks to people about body image. And he did a recent video where he talked about body dysmorphia with like power lifters and social media influencers and why people turn to steroids and there's a lot of influencers like him that are highlighting. Will Tennyson is another one who's a who he like wore a fat suit in a video to see how it felt. And there's a lot of guys that are natural lifters and me. I That is how I will always be. I don't ever see a use to go and take steroids. I don't ever see a reason. I did all of this naturally through hard fucking work. And I don't want to disparage the people that are all the GLP-1s and the Ozempics and whatever. Modern medicine is cool. If that's what works for you, great. I am a believer in hard work. I am a believer in you get out what you put in. And the harder you fucking work and the more that you want it, the better off you'll be. And it builds character and it builds discipline. And it's something that everybody needs in their life. And I cannot recommend it enough. And through all the body dysmorphia, through all the change in my relationship with food, through all of my struggles, through all of my problems, the thing that I come out on the other side is really realizing is that all of those versions of me are me. They're all a part of me. The overweight kid is me. The scrawny kid is me. The kid that got his feelings hurt. The kid that didn't know how to pick up a weight. The kid that was nervous around girls because he felt like he was sweaty. You have any idea? If you do, you'll know what I mean. You have any idea what it's like to be in like eighth grade or high school and they make you go to gym class in the middle of the fucking day and you're fat and you sweat and you smell because you sweat and you come into class and you're like bathed in Axe body spray and you're sitting there sweating because you're worried that the cute girl next to you in history is gonna like, awful. It's a broken fucking system and that shit needs to change, which is why I never did gym in high school and I got F's every year. I just sat, I refused to get changed and I just wouldn't do gym. But there are so many parameters within our physical health. There is a mental aspect to it. But what I want to convey to any and everybody is that no matter how hard your life may be, no matter how many difficulties you incur in your life, everything can get better if you take care of your body, because when you take care of your body, you are also taking care of your mind. I am a product and proof that it can be done. I am somebody who was 320 pounds that is now 205, lean, with muscle, active, healthy. I'm someone who who overcame a major debilitating back injury and got on the other side of it.
I am proof of somebody who was in a depression because of it that came out on the other side of it. And that's not to knock or make it like I understand depression to the level that other people do. I was not clinically depressed. I was not put on medication. And I don't in any way, shape, or form want to give the impression that my depression was to the level of others, or to put down the fact that depression is legitimate. And if you are dealing with depression in any sense, I am here for you. There are people that are there for you. I know it's hard. Don't have to fight it on your own. Depression is a real thing, and there are people that want to listen or just sit there with you in silence. But you can change your life by taking care of your physical health, changing your relationship with food, changing your relationship with your body, changing your relationship with nature, with being outside, with being active. The gym is solace for me. It is a safe place. It is a place that I can go for an hour to 2 hours, a couple days a week, 6 days a week, and unplug. And it is my time. It is me against me. It is me against the weights. And no matter what, there is nothing in that place that is not for my betterment in every facet of my life. I implore you not to have to be psycho like I am, but go for a walk, stretch, do yoga, drink water, go to the gym, do something every day that makes you feel good, that takes care of your body. Put good things into your body. Take care of your body so that it can take care of you. Everything in life, I always say, starts from within. The desire, the discipline, and the ability to change your life all starts from within. You can do it. I did it, and so can you. I am not more special than anybody else. I am not better than anybody else. If I can do it, and I did, so can you. And I wish and I hope that anybody who watches this understands that you can come from any background, any struggle, food addiction, drug addiction, bodily injury, loss of family members, all of the things that I've come from and things I've pushed through, that when you want it, you can do it. With anything, with health, with addiction, you have to be the one to do it. You have to be the one to truthfully want it. And unless you want it, it's not gonna work. It is important to me to be able to share things like this because it's important for people to know that no matter where they are on their journey, there are people that have been there. There are people that have been worse off. I believe that I am truthfully a product of hard work. I believe that I am a product of discipline. I believe that all of the beautiful and wonderful things that have come into my life over these past 6 years are because I made the fucking decision to take my life back and take care of myself. And now here I am on a podcast trying to help take care of other people. I take care of people in my life. I take care of my friends. None of that would be possible if I did not take care of myself first. So I always ask guests about a final message, and I always talk about, ending the episode on a high note and all these things. Here's my final message in this episode to you. Everything that you do, everything that you are, and everything that you can be can all be positively influenced by taking care of your physical health. Your mental health can be amazingly and majorly impacted by taking care of your physical health. It's not about looking good. Yeah, that's a great byproduct. It's about feeling good and knowing who you are and feeling good in your skin. Discipline helps you in other areas of your life. Working hard builds character. You can be any fucking thing that you want in this life. You can do anything. And a great place to always begin, whether it's for the first time or the 20th time, is by taking care of your body so that it can take care of you. If you watched this episode, I sincerely appreciate it. I could go more, I could talk more, but it felt natural, it felt organic, and it felt good. And if you listen to this, I appreciate you taking the time to get a little bit of insight into me. Physical health is something that's important to me. I believe it's something that should be important to all of us. And for anyone watching or listening, I wish you nothing but the most amazing things on your journey of physical health, mental health, spiritual health, emotional health, healing, wherever you currently are and wherever you're headed. I wish you nothing but love, luck, strength, and everything in between. So until next week, I appreciate you guys hanging out. I appreciate you guys listening and giving me a chance to talk. And I hope that you enjoyed it. And I hope that you take something from this episode and apply it to your life. Go for a walk. Go take care of yourself. Make yourself feel good because it feels good to feel good. Thanks so much. And we'll catch you in the next one. So until then, take care and be well.